everybody. My dad thinks his podcast is amazing, so please subscribe, give it 5 stars or whatever, and maybe he'll finally stop talking about it. Anyways, welcome to Sober At.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm Ryan, this is Jess, and we are Sober as Fuck. Before we get to today's powerhouse guest, I want to remind everybody to please make sure you like, subscribe, review, comment, all the things, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, share, and YouTube. So please make sure you're checking those out on all platforms and also sharing.
And sharing.
Make sure you
share it.
Also, check us out on our website at our-noon.com. That's our-noon.com. What else you got?
Oh, I have so many things.
We'll get to them.
Kind of like how you've been walking around the house all injured. If you see Ryan and his energy's a little down.
I'm pissed.
You pride yourself on all this running and marathons, and I think it's fantastic. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love it. But if they could only see you when you roll out
hopping around the fucking house.
I don't think you're hopping. I think you're like scooting.
Yeah, like it is more of a scoot these days. Yeah.
Does this make sense?
The planters is real. And I'm not talking about peanuts. It is fucking real, and it hurts like a son of a bitch. Yeah.
Jim Carrey little reference.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So before we get on to today's guest, quick trigger warning. We do talk about all of these sensitive topics: addiction, mental health, self-harm, everything. So if we say something and it's triggering, definitely prioritize your own mental space. But assuming that you stick around, who do we have today?
Today, I'm very excited about this guest. He wrote a book called Sobriety Confidential. This dude is 5.5 years sober, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Please welcome to the show author Chris Sicke.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, what's up, Chris? How are you, buddy?
I'm telling you, you could have a podcast before the podcast of just you two getting ready and just talking.
Everybody says that.
That's what everybody says.
That's how it started.
That's usually how our episodes with us just go. We just sit and talk about, everyday shit. It just turns into a podcast.
Mm-hmm. We've been married a long time, so,
just the way it is. Well, thanks for joining us on the show today, brother. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Well, before we get to the book and the writing of the book and everything, why don't you kind of give us a background of, 5.5 years ago, everything changed, obviously, hopefully surely for the better, when you got sober. So what was it kind of like before then? And then what kind of changed your relationship with alcohol?
So 5.5 years ago, I was in Atlanta, and 47 years old, I had, been living those previous 10 years in like utter depression, low self-esteem, self-hatred, resentment against God, resentment against the world, resentment against all these other industries in the world that I thought owed me or that I would hope come and rescue me. And so just continued spiraling down, working a job I hated. Alcohol and drugs were the only refuge. And my usage just escalated and escalated. And, I had just resigned myself to the fact that, okay, I'm just going to die an alcoholic and a drug addict, and I actually tried to cut my wrist at one point. And because I had just gotten so sick of the pain, of failure, there was no hope. It would have been one thing had I had this way out, Chris, if you do this and do that, you can become, what you want to be or whatever. I was a failed actor, a failed musician. And those were the two things that I really, really, wanted to have a life in. But obviously alcohol and drugs ruined that. And so I felt like there was no use in anything if I was going to get what I wanted. So, but, the suicide was unsuccessful, and there was just, I could, I was too afraid to really try it again and to go through with it, and I was totally fucked up when I did attempt it. But once I dried up, I just the thought of my mom, my brother, my sister, my family, my friends, and so I quit my job. And this is on the tail end of another bender. I knew that was the last bender that I was going to be able to go on before I got fired from work. And my mom was living in Columbia, South Carolina, and I knew that was a refuge that I could go to, and to get myself together. And she was helping taking care of my grandfather at the time, who was in his final years. And so I quit my job, moved in with her, and once I got there, just started going to meetings, and I had no hope whatsoever, because I tried AA before, and so I had no hope. But I came across a sponsor who finally, when I did my fifth step with him, told me everything that was actually wrong with me, and all the puzzle pieces finally went together, and I saw it. So yeah, that's kind of the short version of that period.
That's amazing. And first of all, thank you for sharing all of those parts of you. I start the episodes off with this trigger warning, for obvious reasons, but also because, and we talked about this before we came on, we really want our guests to be as open and raw and honest as they feel comfortable, because I can assume everyone in their active lifestyles, you feel very isolated, like you try these different programs and you try to talk to people, and you may hear like tidbits of other stories that you're like, oh yeah, I resonate with that. But in this world where this umbrella term of addiction, it can be very isolating within that too. And depending on like where you are, what your profession is, some of it is very glamorized. And I also like how you said you finally spoke to someone who got it, who got you, who was like, listen,
right.
I see you and I see your addiction, and we're going to talk about how those things just don't play very well together. And your story reminds me of kind of a lot of my brothers. His was the same way. He's been sober for about 5.5 years, and I've talked about him on previous episodes, but his was the same way. He, had attempted to take his life a couple times, and some of it wasn't even like, I don't want to say intentional, but he would be like, I would just use so much just to see if I'd wake up tomorrow, just to feel something, just to see how far I could push it. And same thing, he woke up one day and thought, I don't want to die. I want to live. And we are very close. Our mom passed away last year, but the three of us were very close and very similar. So, a lot of what I was hearing from you made me think of him, and he's my favorite person in the world, and he's sober and thriving now. So it is not a small feat, to say the least. You guys get on here to talk about it, but it's huge. It's a huge accomplishment. So that's fucking awesome.
Well, I mean, if I kind of see it where, like, if I'm open and willing to talk about certain things that someone, locked up in their home with all their curtains drawn, is thinking that I'm the only one on this planet that feels like this and is going through this. And then, if I share that dark, deep shit, that can help someone,
Oh, hell yeah.
And screw my ego in my any desire to try and save face, because what's that for? What's that worth?
Yeah, because then you're still just masking.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're not being of service. You're not helping.
Exactly. Yeah, I look at it as, I love the way you said, you you've tried it a few times, right? I was the same way. And, there's no one size fits all. You got to try different things till it works. To me, it's almost like trying to find a therapist, right?
Right.
You never get the first one and it works out. Seems like you got to go through a few of them before you get the right one that works.
Yeah, it's so crazy how different people go through different iterations of their experience with AA, NI, or whatever 12-step program that they're going through. And it just takes this right configuration of people to come into their lives at whatever particular iteration that it is for it to finally click, Because I've had some bad sponsors. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I've heard the horror stories for sure.
yeah.
So what has community meant to you over this past 5.5 years? I mean, once you find the right sponsor, and then, obviously being 5.5 years into it, you're probably looked at as a mentor now. So, how has community really helped you along your way?
So that was the final, so the first couple of years I was in school in Columbia, and I was going to meetings, going to school, and that was my focus. The fellowship around there wasn't that big. And plus I was busy with school. And honestly, I wasn't being as proactive as I should have in terms of reaching out for fellowship. Once I moved from Columbia to Charleston, and I specifically moved to Charleston because I downloaded the AA meeting guide app and saw how many meetings there are in this area, and figured that would be a good place for fellowship, to meet other people, And so once I moved here, then that started this process of going from being uncomfortable to being comfortable, getting to know people. Because I mean, dude, I had isolated myself for years, and my social skills were shit. And so it took me walking through that fear and just taking time, getting to know people, going to different meetings. You kind of find your friends along that way, and that's like a multi-year process. I mean, I've been here almost 3 years, and honestly, it's taken me a good 2.5 years to really get to know people enough to where you kind of find your friends. You know what I mean? One of my problems is that I have this naivete about me that I used to, where I thought AA meetings were all, dude, everyone's happy and loving, and it's like a hippie commune or something. So I'm going to go into these AA meetings and we're all going to be like friends, and that's not the way it is. So I had to learn that, through trial and error. But that was like one of the final things that I had to put together was that fellowship, that community. And that's where, you start to build those relationships, because building those relationships is so important, because you got your friends, you can tell, if you're having a hard time, you're having a hard day, I can talk to my sponsor, but also having friends around me for support is also huge as well,
Absolutely. And, kind of like you said, you've had some horrible sponsors. When you get sober and you're navigating these circles, you're figuring out who you are too,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, that's a big thing. You're like,
Totally.
Fucking know who I am sober. Like, do I like myself? Do I even like the color blue? Like, what is going on? And then you connect with people because and you're willing to, you're at that point where you're like, okay, I understand that community is what's going to keep me sober. So you're open to all of these things, right? You're like, give me all the good stuff.
Well, yeah.
And a hard part of that is sometimes you connect with people who are sober and are doing great stuff, but maybe just not so great for you. And that's really difficult too, because when you're you're isolating, you're pushing things away, you convince yourself you have to have drugs or alcohol in order to, no one's going to like me if I'm sober. And then you open yourself up, and something, especially with you, Ryan, that I saw was really hard was being able to set boundaries. And I saw it with my brother too, and saying, it's okay if this thing is not serving you. There is selfish in a self-serving, very push everything out way. And then there is a selfish, self-serving, I have to make sure that my energy and the energy that surrounds me is positive and giving. And you know, not every person you meet is going to be there forever.
Right.
Everybody has something to teach you, but yeah, like those circles. And some people are just more traumatized. Some people prefer a different path. And it's about learning that that's okay. It's okay that everybody, you know, to let things fall off too. And speaking of that, I heard you talk about your mom, and I think you said your sister. What did that relationship look like when you got sober and friends? Because a lot of people fall off. Some people are even more supportive. Like, how did those relationships look?
So, my friend, I have a core group of friends since I've had since like elementary school that live here in the Southeast, but by the end of but up to that point where I got sober, I had pushed them away. I had pushed my mother and sister and brother and immediate family away as far as I could, but keeping them as close as I had to, because my mom would call me here all the time, and nothing worse than being all fucked up on a weekend, all geeked out on a fucking Saturday night. My mom calls. I can't answer that phone. She's gonna, and God, there were a couple times where I did it, and it was a fucking mistake, man. But and so just not being present, and answering the calls, their anxiety builds. They're my mom, and dude, she's such a she worries. It took her a couple of years. It took her about a year and a half, because I had gotten sober relatively before, and she saw that, and then I relapsed and had to make amends, and then this cycle would repeat. And so this time, I think she was rightly so skeptical, and so once a year and a half elapsed, I think she saw that it was like, something that was different this time. And so my relationship with my mom now is amazing.
That's awesome.
And with my sister and my brother, with everyone, they live a little bit further away from me now. So I don't see them as much as I used to. But the relationship has definitely improved, and I've made my amends with them, but this time I had to make sure that this was going to stick. And so I didn't make my amends right when I got to step 9. I worked 10 through 12 for a little bit and made sure that there was a change in me that was real before going and making the amends.
Mm-hmm. So that's amazing. Yeah. I love that. Did anybody fall off? Like, was there anyone in your life who you thought would stick around and didn't? That happened to Ryan. Like, almost not all of them. Like, your childhood friends stuck around, but like, I remember you having an epiphany when you came home, and you're like, I just realized that almost all of my friends are just my drinking buddies.
Right.
He had a hard time with that.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't drinking or drugging with anybody. I was
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I had, my communal partying was like back in the 2000s. But from like 2010 on to 2020, those last 10 years, it was isolation.
That's really scary too. That's like, that's how it's.
I felt the same way to a point. I mean, I tell a lot of people, especially when I'm sharing in meetings about, towards the end, I was really an isolated drinker. Like yourself, I was very communal with drinking for a long time. And then I think once I saw maybe the writing on the wall of, damn, I'm going to get a DUI or something like that, I'd rather just sit home or find reasons to stay home
right.
to, just get blackout drunk because I thought I needed it to go to sleep, or, I just wanted to push my gambling, issues away and not think about it for a night. But that was actually my darkest time, was the isolation side.
Yeah.
Like you said, that's rough. I mean, that's when you're really battling some fucking demons.
Well, when I say isolated, like it got like that in the beginning of that 10-year span, I was living with my mom, but I was spending all my time in my room.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
And so, and I would go to work, come home, drink in secret, do drugs in secret. But then as those 10 years progressed, and I got moved away, got my own place, it was just work, drinking and drugging, work, drinking and drugging. So yeah.
yeah.
And you were able to maintain that career during all of that, right?
Yeah. Maintains probably a strong
Well, but I'm saying, like, Ryan that's scary too, because from the
Yeah.
outside looking in, people think like, oh, well,
People never thought I had an issue. I mean,
Oh,
they really
knew
did.
I had an issue. Like,
Really?
yeah, oh yeah, because dude, not calling in on a Monday morning. He's always calling in on a Monday morning. And then I had one dude at work. One of my managers was like, I was like, dude, I'm sorry, man. I didn't make it. I was like, oh, it's okay. I know you're an addict. And it's like, how the fuck does he
Oh
know?
gosh.
Like, I
wow.
don't know this. So dude, I wear my emotions or whatever on my sleeve. I'm pretty. I mean, it's not like I was running around telling people, hey, I got what I'm doing. But I think it was just so evident that I was not living to my potential, and I was not being my authentic self.
Mhm.
I was hurting. And every time I'd be at work and I would be crying. I'd be crying.
Yeah.
He looked at me like I was crazy. And I was crying because I had spent all weekend doing fucking cocaine all
Right.
every night, and hadn't had any sleep, and was just miserable. And another thing, one of the biggest reasons why I isolated myself was I didn't want to embarrass myself around anybody.
Yeah.
That was the biggest reason.
Yeah.
That's this guy right
Yeah.
here. He'd had his fair share of drunken jumping off boats and falling on cruise ships and skiing and hotels and
tons of
he's
stories
like,
for that.
yeah, maybe I should just start staying at
You
home.
didn't fall off the third story of a cruise ship, did you?
No,
It was-
thank God.
It was in a silent
It was in a silent nightclub.
like a silent disco or whatever. And we've talked about this. It was great. He was so drunk, and it wasn't like a fall. It was like a weeble wobble that didn't bounce back. I mean, it was just whoosh.
No,
And I couldn't get up.
And imagine him like however many pounds heavier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a lot. So going back to the drinking and drugging part, because this is something we haven't really talked a lot about on the show. When obviously you've got I mean basically it's like one addiction, but really two, right? It's kind of how people look at it. Did you go to NA as well as do AA, or how does that work when you're trying to battle both at the same time?
When I was in California, I was in rehabs, detoxes, sober houses. We would go to NA meetings and AA meetings. We'd go to both. And it just over time in my experience, and this has been everywhere that I've lived here in the States, is that AA just has a bigger footprint. And you're going to meet more people there. And look, this might be different in certain cities, but where I've lived, it's just that there's more people to meet in AA, and 70% of the people I meet in AA have alcohol and drug addictions. So
yeah, I was curious about that because so my issue was gambling,
right,
and alcohol, and I tried getting involved into Gamblers Anonymous. And you want to talk about the most minute footprint you've ever seen in your life. They have like 2 phone calls a week, unless you live in a major city,
right,
that you can hop on, and it's either so packed it's ridiculous, or there's like nobody there to talk to. And I've actually talked to the guy that's run it and been like, man, how do you get a bigger footprint for this?
Right.
And it's just like, everybody goes to Smart Recovery, or they do, they go to AA because it's like the two coincide.
That's right.
So it seems like that's the one thing that really jump starts the other shit in your life. It seems like. Did you find that out for yourself as well? Maybe like the alcohol is what drove to the drugs.
Oh yeah, I mean, if I was drinking, there was a 80% chance I was going to get drugs.
Okay, yeah.
But when I couldn't get drugs, I would drink more heavily.
Right.
And just get, and then usually get pissed off and angry that I couldn't get drugs.
Right.
Right.
The two went hand in hand. But yeah, I mean, but I was carrying flasks with me. Whenever I'd go see my mom, I started carrying, bottles with me in my suitcase to take a swig from, at maybe 10 o'clock in the morning or whatever, Yeah.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah. I mean, it is rough. And I know this just because, again, just revert back, my brother was the same way. Like, there was nothing that he did not do. They're like, so were you like an alcoholic? Were you a drug addict? And he's just like, yes. Like D, all of the above. Yes to all of it.
Yeah.
And something I saw a lot with him as well was, he would drink and then he found cocaine and he's like, oh, well, I can do coke and then I can drink all night long and not be drunk and I can have all the energy.
Well, I tried to use the loophole where, okay, wait, I can go, okay, I got to find a 12-step meeting that I could go to, but still do something.
Right.
So I figured Sex Addicts Anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
I can still drink and do drugs and just tell all my friends who just had an intervention on me that, hey, I'm going to meetings to like cure this.
Yep.
Well, that didn't last too long because I mean, I was, even though I was watching a lot of porn and doing drugs and shit, but I wasn't addicted to sex. I was addicted to the things that I would do when I was under the influence of the drugs and the alcohol. And so then I said, well, shit, I can go to cocaine. Okay, I'll give up the cocaine, And so I'll just drink and do pain pills, and I could do Adderall. So I'll just go to Cocaine Anonymous. Well, that didn't work. So, and then, and I've seen it so many different ways that people try, and I myself tried it, to not drink and just do drugs, to do this, to not do this and just do that, it just doesn't work.
Right. Yeah. It's like a diet. You're just like, because you kind of did that too.
You're finding all these little cheats.
You're like, well, I won't drink beer anymore because it's so easy to chug that. So we'll just drink wine, and then we're walking around with like purple lips everywhere, constantly.
Or I'm going low carb, so I'll drink either bourbon or vodka because it doesn't have any carbs.
Right. Or
that was a good one.
My brother's was well, I just won't do any like hardcore drugs. I'll just drink and just like a few times a week, like 1 glass a day, 2, maybe 3, and then I'll just smoke weed and I will only do like pills that I'm prescribed. And the mental gymnastics that you do to justify why you can do something. I mean, we look back and we're laughing at it now because we're just like,
well, it's just the addiction.
What the fuck? It's almost like you're looking at yourself. Well, and that's the thing is, it's not the alcohol, it's not the drugs that is the problem. Those are symptoms of the problem, which is why, exactly up here, which is why you do rarely see someone who their issue is just alcohol or just drugs. And it happens. Like, we try not to use umbrella terms, but there's normally something else going on. Like with me, I wouldn't even say that alcohol was the problem, but I have a slew of mental health stuff, like all of the acronyms. And then I used alcohol as a way to connect with you. And, it all really is just working terribly together. That part is just so fucked up. So
it's all kind of like trying to find a replacement for a higher, like we're trying to find a higher power. And it's so easy. There's a bottle here. This is, it's right here. It's not this abstract thing up here that I got to, through fate, to try and connect with, that no one's ever seen or whatever. I mean, and
it's so glamorized too. That's the thing too, is like, even just, weed and cocaine and everything, like it's alcohol. It's like, even the things that nobody will admit that they do, it's like that little thing that happens in the bathroom that everybody's like, oh, I'm so cute. You know what I mean? And it's like, come on, with that, as you became sober, what was another big realization? So like, you eliminate all the shit out and you're like, I'm not going to do that anymore. What was your aha, like mental health moment where you realized like, oh, I've been using this to mask these feelings? Like, what was that like underbelly moment for you?
My aha moment was when I was doing my fifth step with my sponsor, and I did my fourth step in a different way than it's outlined in the book. I had tried it in the way it's outlined in the book many times, and it confused the hell out of me. Because, first of all, I don't know everyone. I mean, I can throw you a list of people that I was resentful at, but there's all these other things I've done in my life. It's more than just about who I harmed and what I'm fearful of. It's about like, how did my flawed perceptions get created in the first place? Because, and then from my flawed perceptions came my character defects as a reaction to those flawed perceptions. And so he had me write a timeline of my entire life. So I started with my earliest childhood memories and worked to the present. We're talking like traumatic events, big events, even events that I thought were just pivotal and great and all that kind of stuff, but also people I hurt, everything I was fearful at. And we went down the list. I wrote it in a chronological order. And, I think in the book it outlines that I'm supposed to come up with the character defect, what's my part in it. I couldn't see that. I had to have him tell me what my part was in it because I just could not fucking see it. And so I went down the list and said, okay, this is that, this is this is that. And as we did that, it was like a slap on the face that like, this is why I made all these stupid decisions and created this whole way of interacting with the world and myself and other people. And when none of that worked and it all kept failing, the alcohol and the drugs was the only thing to find relief, to find solace, to feel good. And the weird thing is, like, even when I was young and like hanging out with friends, like even when I was in my teens and 20s and, doing acid or whatever and hanging out with friends and we were partying, I still felt like I still felt less than with them. And now I can look back and say that's because my dad was an alcoholic. And so that's why I can see that, like, I was born with this addictive personality, and the alcohol and the drugs always inhibited me from being my authentic self. I thought that I was trying to find this authentic self, when what I was really doing was masking that mm-hmm. and hindering myself from becoming my authentic self.
Mm-hmm. So for anybody listening right now, you are a big 12-step guy, and everybody's program is different. But I think you're one of the first ones we've had on that have really, really dived into AA and the 12-step program. There's all these different programs now, which is great. So for anybody listening who like has that sort of preconceived, I don't even know where to start, or I don't know, I've heard bad things about AA. What advice would you give them? Just like where to go?
The 12 steps are, NA has the same steps, SA has the same steps, CA has the same steps. Mm-hmm. These steps can be applied to whatever your problems are. You can replace alcohol with life. You can replace alcohol with your dad, with whatever. Now, trying to find someone to help you when you do, to sponsor you through all that is, that's the challenge. But, I think I had to be careful, and I see this happen a lot, where people come up with reasons to dismiss whatever it is that is going to be beneficial for them to change, because we're coming up with reasons to not change, because change is hard, change is painful. And So I've seen some of the reasons I see people talk about, well, AA doesn't work or NA doesn't work or whatever doesn't work. You're coming up with excuses. Now, I'm not saying that that any of these 12-step programs are perfect. I mean, there's also Smart Recovery. I got a friend in Smart Recovery. There's Celebrate Recovery. I have a friend that goes to Celebrate Recovery. There's other things out there, and A is just one of many tools in the box. It just has the largest footprint, and because I think that fellowship is so important, that's why I chose it years ago. I actually tried to go to an NA meeting the other night here in Charleston, but it had been canceled. So I'm not opposed to going to anything. I mean, if I had, I'd go check out a Smart Recovery meeting. I'd go check out a Celebrate Recovery meeting, just to see what's going on. I don't believe in shunning or being overly negatively judgmental about any of it, but it's so crazy because having the right perspective on what it is you're using is so important, and not coming up with that excuse to say it doesn't work. This meeting's clicky. Everyone seems like they're all in a clique in this meeting. Well, go get in the fucking clique.
Right. Is it
do it? I could have easily said when I came here, I was like, dude, this meeting's clicky, and I don't feel like I fit in. That's bullshit. I don't fit in because I haven't done what needs to be done in order to fit in yet. So I had to do all that. I had to walk through that being uncomfortable. I had to walk through that fear. And I know it's hard, but it's a process, and I know it's a pain in the ass, but anything worth anything in life usually is a pain in the ass, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's also hard waking up tomorrow and realizing that you're repeating,
right?
Totally. Bad choices. Like you said, even outside of addiction or alcohol, just anything, like I have a binge eating disorder and I battle with that, and waking up the next day and being like, I can't believe I gave into that. But it's about going. And I love that you put out there that it's not even about AA or Smart Recovery or anything. It's about just fucking show up. Mm-hmm. Like, even if you're like, this sucks, shut up, show up, listen, take notes, just keep yourself open to it. Because
that's so, what you just said is so important, because it's not about the organization. It's about the people, their experience, and their guidance. Mm-hmm. And the steps are just a way to get you to learn what your problems are, how to solve them, and how to get a connection with a higher power. Now that could be God. It can be the meeting itself. It could be the people that make up the meeting itself. It doesn't have to. You don't have to call it God. And I talk in my book a lot about this. The steps don't mean what they say. Not all of them. There's a lot of confusion around that, because what my relationship with some of these steps are completely different than the way it talks about them in the big book. So I'm not, but like I said, nothing is perfect, but we have to, some are just as good as it gets,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's no such thing as perfect, because everybody is different.
Yeah. Right. So let's get to the book. I mean, Sobriety Confidential. What got you to write the book? How did it come about? Give us the deets on it.
So this is the book here, so you can get it on Amazon.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Love the cover.
Get it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. But anyway, so I was in school when I first got sober, and then once school finished up, I was just working and going to meetings, and I was like, I got to do something else with my time, and I have to do something to be of service, because the meetings where I was were very limited, and I didn't have any sponsees at the time, so I had to do something, and so I felt like I had to start. Because I felt like my experience getting sober was I guess, a little unconventional in terms of let me rephrase that. My relationship with the whole sobriety process and AA in particular is a little, I guess, unconventional. And I know other people who have the same feelings. There's a lot of things about it that they don't like. There's a lot of things about it that are confusing and that they don't understand, you know. And these are people I've met, through my decades in and out of rehabs, detoxes, meetings, sober living houses, all these things. So basically and I made those same mistakes too, in terms of coming up with excuses, to put something down, to be judgmental of it. And so I wanted to share my failings, and I wanted to share what I've learned through those failings, because I know that there's other people who've had those same failings. And I have ADHD. And so I learn things kind of a weird way. And that might have something to do with how I've had to, learn some of these steps. So I thought I'd share that too, because I know a lot of people out there have ADHD.
I'm one of those people. So
yeah. See, I learned things by like a brick up process. Just give me the first brick on the ground, and then give me the second brick, then the third brick. That's how I need it.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to present that brick by brick wall building of the whole sobriety process, from start. We never finished, but from start to just getting to the point to where you can really just start living in your sober self and trying to figure things out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love that, because that's how my brain works too. That's why I asked what advice would you give? Because for me, with ADHD, once I start, I can have the flow to pick up from there. But you're right. It's that first brick. It's like, I just need kind of a rough draft. It doesn't even have to make a whole lot of sense, as long as I can follow the flow, and then I can navigate it from there. And then, that also, I'm also OCD. So then that is hyper focusing,
Right.
Then you get started, and I'm like, if you pull me away from this, I'm going to eat you alive. Okay.
I gotta get it done.
He'll come and interrupt me doing something, and I'm like, I just give him that look like, do you want to die today? Don't bring me away from this. But yeah, that makes complete sense, at least to me. And I love how I've never heard that explanation of brick by brick. I love that. Because you're right, there's no end, but you are trying to at least create a picture that you can continue to build on. I love that.
But I also kind of in my head was thinking, if I could go back to my 15-year-old self and just shake me and say, Chris, and tell that 15-year-old self all the shit that I know now, a lot of it is that as well.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was going to say. Is that kind of how you wrote the book? Kind of like talking to your younger self, basically a step by step. Here's how we should have done it.
Yeah, well, I kind of do. I am talking to someone else. And a lot of times, I guess subconsciously, I was talking to myself. But I'm also talking to the thousands of people that I've come across, in my 35 years of alcohol and drug, history, who I've come across and whom have shared their stories with me, and about their struggles and why they couldn't get it, why they weren't getting it. And then fast forward to now, to talking to people and figuring out how they get it now. How do you understand this stuff now? What did it take for you to figure this out?
Yeah. When you really dive into the way that people process information, that's like a whole separate thing, because for me, I will see something and I'll see a task, but if I look at it too long, or it seems too big, oh my gosh, this is just so overwhelming, I don't know where to begin. And then I've said this many times, like puzzles and adult coloring books. I know a lot of ADHD people love them. I hate them. Not that I don't love
I
them.
didn't know that.
If I start, if I see this huge thing and I'm like, if I start this, I have to finish it. And that's part of my OCD too. You know, my therapist is like, well, the only treatment is like you just start something and then you walk away from it. And I'm like, fuck you, no. That sounds so uncomfortable. I can't do that. So sobriety can be that same way. Like, I want to do this, but gosh, how long am I going to have to be uncomfortable? Like, when do those feelings go away? What do I do in those? And it makes your soul uncomfortable to think that there's no trick. Honestly, like, we have the steps and stuff to make it tangible, but the trick is to show up, to reach out, and to sit with the shittiness.
Right. And that fear of being uncomfortable is, as we've all learned in most, it's always contempt prior to investigation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it might suck when we're in it, but once we get out of whatever it is that we're going through that's uncomfortable or painful, we've become stronger and we've grown. And so that fear that we used to have has then been replaced by this feeling like our self-esteem is improved. We feel better about ourselves. We're better people to other people now. We can interact with the world better, and whatever things that we're dealing with in life, that we're applying certain principles of recovery to, we have to go through some of that uncomfortability.
Mm-hmm.
We can't have pleasure all the time. It's just unsustainable.
No, and that's the thing too, is in our society, we really have made it so that people feel like they're not supposed to feel pain. They're not supposed to feel sadness or anger or discomfort, anything that we have designated as negative, when really that is your mental health. That is your body's way of communicating with you. And though it is an uncomfortable feeling, I don't think it's negative. It's important is what it is.
Right.
And I find with me, I have to work on, I have anxiety and fear about the anxiety and fear I'm going to have. And that's a whole, mental fuck you that you go through. You're like, are you anxious? Yeah. What are you anxious about? I'm anxious about being anxious about the thing that I'm anxious about. They're like,
yeah.
What? You're like, yeah. It's called pre-anxiety. It's great.
Right. Yeah. It's like, why am I having these thoughts? I don't want to have these thoughts. It's like, then you start having thoughts about you're like judging yourself over the negative thoughts that you're having because you don't want to have those negative thoughts.
Mm-hmm. And then your partner walks in at the end of the day and nothing has gotten done. And he's like, how was your day? And you're like, I'm exhausted. And they look around and they're like, have you done anything? And you're like, oh, I've just been aggressively talking to myself all day to the point that now I can't get off the couch.
So you have had a busy day.
That's right. mentally busy day.
Yeah, I'm exhausted.
Well, Chris, before we get you out of here, we ask all our guests to think back to their old fun days, drunken days, and give us one hell of a story that you can share with us.
Okay. So this is one of the most interesting, and I mean, it was scary at the time, but now it's fun to look back on it. But my buddy used to this is down on Hilton Head. My buddy, we were 15, and he would run into 7-Elevens, grab a case of beer, and run out with it. And that's how we would drink. And one night he talked me into doing it, and I was scared as shit. And we had a guy out with a pickup truck waiting on us, two guys who I barely even knew him. And so we both walk into the 7-Eleven, we grab our case of beers and just run out with them, jump in the back of the pickup truck. He hauls ass off and hits a ditch and the truck's jacked up like 2 feet, slams into a mailbox, skids on the highway 278, and we start going down the road. And my buddy, I talk about him in my book, but I can't remember what name I used for him in the book. But anyway, he's like, okay, lay down flat in the back of the bed, so just so no one knows that we're back here. So he had a history of being a kleptomaniac. So I figured he was street smart. He knew his shit. I'm gonna listen to him. So we just laid in flat, and we're laying in the back of this pickup truck, going down the road, and about 10 minutes passes, and then in the reflection of the back window, you see a blue light start going. And he's like, okay, as soon as we stop, grab your case of beer and
Run.
run. Okay. So the dude driving the truck pulls over. We grab the cases of beer, jump out. As soon as we land on the ground, the cases explode. The beer goes everywhere. Then I go to run into the woods, but I slam right into a barbed wire fence.
Oh, God.
And then have to climb over that. And then this is like, Hilton Head Island in the summer. There's vines and shit everywhere. And so I get over that fence and start, fighting my way through these vines and shit, and I get getting cuts all over me. He's right behind me, and we kind of go in for, I don't know how long we must have gone in there, a couple hundred yards. And he's like, okay, because we were like wearing like white sneakers and white shirts, and he's like, take your shoes and your shirt off, and let's get under this tree and cover ourselves with leaves. So we did that, and we can hear in the distance the cop yelling, "Boys, you boys better get on out there!" And my buddy's like, he's not coming in here. He's like, I'm gonna come in there and sick the dog on you. And he's like, it's fat. He's like, that fat ass isn't coming in these woods. And so about 20 minutes elapses, and then we start slowly seeing blue lights in the distance all around us. Turns out we were in the middle of imagine a city block of woods with streets on every corner, on every side. We were in the middle of that. And there was all these blue lights that were surrounding us. And I was like, oh shit. And so slowly we started seeing flashlights getting turned on and kind of shining through the leaves and shit. And when we're laying there, and it's cold. It was like a summer night, but it was cold and rainy. The lights start coming in, they get closer and closer, and I'm getting scared as shit, because my stepdad at the time was an alcoholic and he was abusive. And if I would have gotten busted, he would have kicked my ass.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was so afraid of getting busted. And there was this one cop, I swear, came within like 5 feet of where my foot was, and his light just passed by my foot. And I was actually getting ready to get up. I was like, maybe if I just give myself up, they'll take pity on me, and I won't get in any trouble. I'll say it was him. My friend. And so, but I didn't get up and do anything. But and he went right past me, and they missed us, and they were walking all around us, and they just kept missing us. And hours passed, and like slowly over the couple of hours, one cop would leave, then another would leave, and slowly the last one left. And we waited after that last one left like another hour. But then we had to get to his house, which was probably like 3 miles of a walk, and we had to walk through marsh mud. Because we couldn't go on the highway. So we finally got up and got out, and we walked through marsh mud. Then we had to climb over the backyards of fences, leapfrogging over these fences. And there were dogs and stuff barking and lights coming on. But we finally got to his house at like 6 or 7 in the morning. And his buddy never knocked on us. He never told us, he never told the cops about us. He said we were hitchhikers that he had picked up. So that was one very memorable thing that we did. So,
Yeah, that's like from a movie.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if that happened now with like social media and TikTok and everything? Oh my gosh, your naked bloody butt would be everywhere.
what's happening? Oh Lord.
Oh my God. And you're what? You said you were 15?
Yeah.
So in my head, I'm like, those are just little babies out there. Like,
I was 15. Well, dude, there wasn't much to do on Hilton other than to get in trouble back then.
Oh yeah. We've been there many times. There's not a whole hell of a lot to do.
you look at your buddy and you go, you are never coming up with the idea ever again.
I think, I didn't run in and grab any cases of beer after that.
Yeah,
I did it one more time after that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining us on the show
This has
today.
been
We
great.
really
Thank
appreciate
you for
it.
having me. I've really enjoyed it.
One more time, what's the name of your book and where can you get it?
Sobriety Confidential on Amazon.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Thanks, Chris.
Really appreciate it, brother.
Very nice to meet you too.
Yeah,
You too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
If you love the podcast, which I know you do, please like, subscribe,
and hit that notification bell to get
Boom.
notified every time we post.
That's right. Dropping them, baby.